Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. A very warm welcome to the launch of three outstanding books. The first event of Colors of Glory Foundation is hosting in 2024. I am Samyukta Vijay-Shankar, your MC for the evening. Before we commence the event, please bear with me for a few minutes while I profile our foundation for the benefit of those who are in the audience who may have not attended our prior events. Our country has many number of heritage organizations for almost every sphere of human activities, be it art, literature, politics, or any other. Somehow, warfare does not enjoy this privilege despite the fact that we have such a rich military history past, which, of course, very other few countries can match. This is an anomaly that our founders set about to rectify 8 years ago by raising our foundation. We have come a very long way since, carving a niche for ourselves with dedication and enterprise. Let me play a 2-minute audio clip for you that eloquently conveys our essence of our mission.
Finding a firm place for our armed forces in people's hearts and minds. From Flanders fields to Mesopotamia, from North Africa and Italy to Burma, nearly 4 million soldiers of the Indian Army fought overseas during the 2 world wars, and 150,000 of them perished. The origin of that army, which constituted the largest voluntary force in each of those wars, dates back to the 1700s, when the English East India Company, EIC, began recruiting sepoy levies in the Carnatic and Gangetic plains, and later in West and Northwest India. Initially raised as 3 presidency armies, Madras, Bengal and Bombay, they were later amalgamated to form a single one that, through years of constant battling, molded itself into a magnificent fighting force with few equals in the world. Following the trend, a sea arm took shape which was eventually to form the Indian Navy, its genesis marked by the induction of Indian sailors into the Bombay Marine, a force created by the EIC in the early 1600s to protect its coastal interests. Then, over the years, as aerial combat evolved, Indian flyers also took to the skies, the fledgling Indian Air Force cutting its teeth in the bloody frontier wars of the Northwest, in which were once engaged the Royal Flying Corps. The gallant traditions of unflinching courage under fire, these intrepid soldiers, sailors, and airmen wove in blood, continue to inspire their worthy descendants in India's armed forces who have risen to the occasion time and time again since independence to write their own chapters of valor and sacrifice while defending the nation's integrity. Yet, the country at large remains barely conscious of its prowess in arms and glorious military heritage. Even the many glorious Indian feats of arms after independence, from Zojila to Bomdila, and Philora to Bogra, and Basantar and Tiger Hill, have already faded into obscurity in the country's collective consciousness. Colors of Glory seeks to fill this gap by promoting awareness of India's proud military heritage, while popularizing literature and art forms with a military theme, opening vistas of military tourism and memorializing battles and war heroes. Our mission.
That being our mission, let me show you some glimpses of the road we have traveled so far, hosting multiple events in a 3-minute video. part of the story because it covers mostly the outdoor activities and not the indoor activities like talks, presentations, and the innumerable virtual events we conducted during the pandemic and continue to host. We are also spreading our wings with outreach programs, the first of which we hosted in Bangalore last year and are poised to host many more of its kind in other cities as well. We have a pan-India membership base and some overseas members as well. We invite those of you who are not members to obtain a membership and be part of this unique initiative. An annual membership costs only 1,000 rupees and a lifetime membership costs 10,000 rupees. Our membership is unique for its features where the spouse of a member gets automatic membership. Our volunteers outside will be happy to explain the modalities of obtaining a membership and the benefits thereof. We look forward to seeing many more of you into our whole. For those who are new to our organization, let me introduce you to our founder, Captain D.P. Ramchandran. He is a veteran of the 1971 war, wherein he commanded an armored squadron. Leaving the service after 10 years, he has had a corporate career that spanned 36 years. He has authored 3 books and is working on the 4th one, besides being the live wire of the Colors of Glory Foundation. I now invite him to the podium to deliver the welcome address. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Samyukta. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. A very hearty welcome to all of you for our first event of the year. We have amongst us Air Marshal B. Manikandan, AVSM VM, Air Officer Commanding-in-Chief, Southern Air Command, who has traveled from Trivandrum to attend this function. We salute your esprit de corps, sir. Thank you, and welcome you heartily to the event. We also have Major General R.M. Srinivas, Chief of Staff to the GOC&C Dakshin Bharat area. A very hearty welcome to you too, General. I wish to accord a sincere welcome to all the respected veterans here and the esteemed members of the Madras Book Club and Madras Literary Society and all other civilian gentry who has graced this occasion and honored us. Now, we have some very special 4 guests here. Mr. and Mrs. Balaji Kartha and Mr. and Mrs. Preman Kartha. Mr. Balaji Kartha and Mr. Preman Kartha are nephews of Wing Commander Unni Kartha, who is author of the 2 books and the co-author of the 3rd, which are being launched. Sadly, Unni is no more with us. So, I'm sure we will be watching it all up from the heaven. Let me now extend my earnest welcome to the man of the hour, Squadron Leader Pushp Vaid Veer Chakra. Who is going to present the book MI4 at War, which he has co-authored with Wing Commander Unni Kartha. And the 2 books of Unni, that is Cyclic Stories and Cyclic Rides Again. I'm absolutely elated to have this opportunity to have a book by Squadron Leader Pushp Vaid launched here for the very special reason that he's my fellow veteran of 1971 Bangladesh War. Of course, he was flying a helicopter when I was riding a tank, and we saw action in different sectors, but we were all in it. He was indeed fortunate to play a key role in what's considered the most spectacular operation of the Bangladesh War. No, I'm not going to talk about Meghna Heli Bridge, which you're all earnestly waiting to hear from him. So, We all, yeah, in fact, he gave us a talk on this operation in one of our virtual meets. Listening to him at that time, it struck me this will make beautiful material for a war book. I didn't know about his literary prose at this time, and that he's going to turn it into a book. Congratulations, sir. I'm not going to elaborate on his biodata because you'll soon be hearing from the senior air veteran of Chennai, Air Marshal S. Worthaman, who has kindly consented to introduce him formally. Coming to his score, the late Wing Commander Unni Kartha, I have a sentimental connect with him. We both grew up in the same coastal village on the outskirts of Alapi in Kerala, with the difficult to pronounce name of Ambalapura, as Unni used to write in his anecdotes about the place. We didn't know each other when we grew up there. He was younger to me, and while in school itself, we went to RIMC, whereas I went on to complete my graduation at the University of the First Senior Commission in the Army. We met in recent years through a mutual friend, that too not physically. We began corresponding with each other, sharing memories of old Ambalapura and, sharing anecdotes. And his demise came as a shock. He used to attend our virtual meetings, actually. I met him those meetings during the COVID. I'm not venturing to introduce Unni either. We have amongst us someone who has been a lifelong friend of his, an NDA buddy, in fact, Major General Jose Manavalan, who will be doing us honor. He will be paying a tribute to him after the presentation by Squadron Leader Pushp. Now, ladies and gentlemen, may I request you all to stand up for a minute and observe a minute's silence in memory of Wing Commander Unni.
So, thank you, sir. I know EVSM, AVSM, VM, BSM, former Air Officer Commanding-in-Chief, Eastern Air Command, who is also an honorable trustee of our foundation, to introduce Squadron Leader Pushp Kumar Vaid, Veer Chakra, who shall be making the presentation of the books.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It gives a great pleasure to see the hall full. It's really nice. And we have arrived. Also, the Colors of Glory has got another success as well. Squadron Leader Pushp Vaid is launching his book in India in this place. So we have the distinct honor of launching this book. Thank you, sir. It's my proud privilege and honor to introduce Squadron Leader Vaid. He joined the Indian Air Force after the NDA. He's the 21st NDA course. He joined in 1963, and soon after that he went in for the flying conversion. And in the middle of the flying conversion, when he was still a kid, the Air Force caught him, and they said that we need helicopters in the Indian Air Force. And he was dispatched to the United States, to the UK, to learn to fly a helicopter. We didn't have helicopters in the Indian Air Force those days. So he is really a pioneer in helicopter aviation in the Indian Air Force, using the helicopter as a weapon of war. When he was just about 10 years old, he was still a flight lieutenant. 10 years in the service, he was still a flight lieutenant. The 1971 war started, and he was the flight commander, the head of operations of the 110 helicopter unit. And this helicopter unit was based in the northeast near Kumbigram. And when the war broke out, his unit was attached to the 4 Corps. The famous legendary General Sagat Singh was in command. And he slowly he built up his helicopter numbers, and he finally had 14 Me-4 units. and they took part in the war, and they played a very, very crucial role in the war, which I will leave it to him to narrate, which, frankly, I did 40 years of service, I did not know. So I got educated after I retired, actually. And I'm not the only ignorant guy. Many did not know. A majority of our servicemen at that time did not know. Till Squadron Leader Vaid brought it up, and he said, hey, listen, what about us? We also did something. And then he started talking at various forums and bringing out the singular achievement which his unit and his batch of young pilots he had, less than 25 years old, what significant a moment in the history to enable the lightning campaign that we did. I will leave it to him to narrate. Soon after the war, at 11 years service, he decided to leave the Air Force and migrated to the United Kingdom, where he joined the British Airways helicopter unit and flew all over the world, actually, including Brunei. He was telling me today he flew in Brunei as well. So it's something that we don't read about except that very rich sultan sitting there. So he flew in Brunei and all over the world for 20 years. And thereafter, he joined another Dutch company, Squadron, and flew for another 12 years. The kind of flying experience he's got, I don't know. I'll have to ask Group Captain Ashok whether he's got that many hours. Pushp Vaid has flown only helicopters 17,500 hours. Remarkable. And in the Air Force, we go about saying that, I flew 17,000 or 1,000 hours or whatever it is, accident-free. But he had an accident as well. And probably when we have time, he will talk about the accident, which was probably the most catastrophic helicopter accident on this planet, on the Chinook helicopter, which he was the captain on. So this story is, I leave it to Squadron Leader Vaid. Many of us keep saying, why don't we write about our experience in war? Fortunately, we have one, Captain Ramachandran, who's here. But there were many army officers who have written about their experience in war. But there were very numbered few as far as the Air Force is concerned. And we are really honored that Squadron Pushp Vaid picked up the pen and decided to tell us the story. Thank you, sir. I welcome you to the stage. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm so glad to see so many people here, and I'm delighted to be here, and I'm so happy Color of Glory was able to host me over here. First, I'll tell you why it took me so long to produce this story and to tell my story to anybody. After the war in 71, 74, I left the Indian Air Force, and like Vartha was saying, I migrated to UK. New life, new work, children growing up, forgot about the war, carried on living. And so only when I retired in 2006, 2007, I said, let me find out what Air Headquarters knows about me. And after a lot of persuasion, I got one line from the Air Headquarters saying, 110 helicopter took part in the war. And that is it. That is all the evidence they had in the Air Headquarters. I was shocked. I had written my report, I'd sent it to Eastern Air Command, and they probably filed it somewhere and forgot about it. So I started writing my stories and started sending it to whoever was willing to listen to me. But who wants to know 40 years old story, So it was very difficult, and especially when I'm sitting in UK as well. Eventually, Unni Kartha saw my story, and he rang me up and he said, come over to Hyderabad. So I went to Hyderabad in 2018, 2019, and he arranged for me to give a talk to College of Air Warfare in Secunderabad. And there were 50 officers sitting there, group captain and equivalent Army and Navy. And I gave my presentation, the one I'm going to give you guys. And they were looking at me. I says, we've been in the service 20 odd years, and nobody ever told us what we had done. And they rang up Air Headquarters. And Air Marshal Vikram Singh came over to my sister's place where I was in Gurugram, sat with me for 2 hours, took all my notes and everything, and then he put it in the Air Headquarters records. And the following year, calendar, January, our helicopter was on the first page, which was wonderful. So since then, the story has become more visible and is being produced all over the place. Little clips have come up. NDTV did a program for me, for Vijay Devas in last year, and Doordarshan did a program for me, and that came up as well. And I was fortunate, I wrote to the Chief of Air Staff, can I come and see you? And I was fortunate to get an appointment. So I met him on the 2nd of January. And he was well aware of what we had done, and he was so proud of what we had done. So I requested him, can we do a documentary for us? So he's already authorized, Indian Air Force is going to do a documentary. And another company is also doing a documentary. And fortunately, another movie company approached us, and they want to make a movie of the helicopter operation, just the 2 weeks of the helicopters. I said, what about the fighters and the transport? He says, no, we're just only concentrating on the 2 weeks of what you guys did. So I met the director, the producer, and the writer in Mumbai on the 3rd of January. And I was so pleasantly surprised. Vikramaditya is the director, and he's quite well-known director. And they're well into it. They've been working on it for 18 months. And hopefully by middle of next year, they'll probably be shooting it and producing it. So that's keeping my fingers crossed. So it's becoming visible. And so now I'll tell you the story, and you'll realize yourself what an important part we played during the war. So we'll start with our, okay. We'll go on to the next one, please. That's the book which is outside if you guys want to buy, and the 2 other books which Unni Kartha has written. Okay, we go to the next one, please. Okay. That's the Me-4, is showing you what Me-4 looked like. And you can see the cabin on the top and at the bottom. And of course, it's showing you in the mountains where we were operating most of the time. And you can see the cabin was very basic. And even the seats were very basic. And we didn't even have seat belts or anything like that. And we used to fold the seats down. During the war, we never had the seats even, because we wanted as much space as possible. And throughout the war, we didn't have a seat belt, we didn't have a seat, and we put the luggage in first, and then we loaded the passengers in. And they just sat wherever they could sit. And the 2 pilots are sitting in the cockpit, which is on the top. We had no time to come out of the cockpit, because if we come out of the cockpit, we were wasting time. And the only guy who was handling the passengers was the cabin crew, flight engineers, we used to call them. And they were the last one in and the first one out. And we'd removed the clamshell door as well. This is the cockpit, very basic cockpit as well. And the magnetic compass we had, and a gyro compass we had, and that was the only navigation aid we had. And it didn't have an autopilot also. And so these flight engineers' job was to handle the passengers. And they would load up the aircraft. We had no time to weigh anybody. We had no time to write down anybody's name. So we didn't make any manifest. We used to just shove people in, sit down, and the flight engineer used to jump in, the last person to jump in. And he didn't have a safety belt. He only had a contact with us with the headphone. And I don't know how fortunate we were, nobody fell off the helicopter, because there was no clamshell door. It was a big hole at the back of the helicopter when we were operating. And the reason we removed the clamshell door was it was much easier for the passengers to get in and out. And also we carried artillery guns as well. We broke the artillery guns and we used to load them up. Because if you use the side door, it would have been very, very difficult to people get in and all. It would have been wasting so much time. Okay, this is the and that's the following one is just showing you what the Me-4 was doing. They're like any other helicopter, mostly carrying relief, wherever there's any problems. We didn't have a Red Cross because we were carrying arms and ammunition as well, and we were doing the job of a Red Cross as well. Okay, we'll do the next one, please. And these are some of my young pilots, and you can see the gentleman right in the front. He's Doc Sridharan. He was the youngest in my squadron. He was only 19, and I was the oldest. I was 30. So you can imagine, most of the other pilots were 23, 24, 25. Most of them had very little experience. Doc probably had 500 hours of experience on the Me-4. And fortunately, and I'll say it again and again, throughout the war, we didn't have a single accident. Not one accident. It's absolutely incredible. And this is just a photograph of all of our pilots and engineers standing in front of the Me-4. Okay, next one, please. And that's the little diary. It was only about that big. I carried it throughout the war, and I used to make notes of who's going to fly when and what flight, and then after they used to come back, I used to write down the load figures and everything. It was all guesswork. But my operation, of course, I had to write the names of the pilots and name of the aircraft, the registration of the helicopter now. And that's the diary. I was keeping it. I still have the diary. And this year when I came, I went to USI. I went to USI and handed over to them because they have a beautiful room, which is for 1971 operation with lovely maps and everything. We got some of my paintings as well over there. So I handed over to them, but I said for safekeeping, because if it is in my house, my kids will probably bin it because it's got no value for my kids. And I also had a file from 50 years ago, which had individual shades daily of flying what we were doing, which haircut, which captain, from where to where, at what time. So I've handed over that file as well. So it's at the right place, And we were thinking about Air Force, but Air Force Museum is not ready yet. And I have copies of it. I can probably give it to the Air Force Museum as well when it comes up at the end of the year. And that is the name of all the pilots we had. We had 3 units. 110HU was my unit. Then 105HU came from Chabua, joined us. They had 4 helicopters. We had 8 from my unit, 4 from 105. And then later on the 10th of December, 2 helicopters joined us from Hashimara. So we had 14 in the end total. Next one, please. Yeah, here it is. Nanda Karyappa is here. Sandhu is there, yeah. Yeah, you see, these are the senior officers who were with me. Sagat Singh, of course, everybody knows. Chandan Singh, who was group captain at that time. And the 3 COs, Sandhu, Karyappa, and Chabra. And the best part is these 5 gentlemen, they were most wonderful because nobody interfered with what I was doing. Because the job was being done, they just let me get on with it. It was wonderful to have senior officers who had so much confidence in what we were doing. And the job was being done. And most of the time, we were ahead of the time because we were just flying to wherever army told us. And often we were waiting for the army to catch up because army had to come by road or by walking or whatever, So often we were waiting for the army to turn up. But it was just wonderful, absolutely wonderful. And the whole operation, and we were working 24/7, literally. And the only time we got time to go to toilet or to go to have some food was when we came to Agartala. And the aircraft was getting refueled, aircraft was getting serviced, probably had about half an hour. We run to the toilet, we run to the food, and if we still had time, I would tell people, go to sleep. People used to go and sleep for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Even in the aircraft, we used to sleep, just to catch up with some few naps every now and then. But literally, we were flying day and night, 24/7 for the entire 2 weeks of the operation. Next one, please. This is a little history. The left one is what India was before the partition took place. Then the Britishers made the East Pakistan and the West Pakistan. And the last one, East Pakistan became Bangladesh. As you all know, East Pakistan and West Pakistan had nothing in common except they were Muslim. They didn't speak the same language. They didn't eat the same food. They didn't think the same way. They didn't talk to each other the same way. And sadly, West Pakistan was ruling them. And obviously, the East Pakistan didn't want that. And when Awami League won the election in 1970, and legally, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman should have been the prime minister, they cancelled the election. And obviously, the agitation started. And March onwards of 1971, huge chaos was happening in East Pakistan. And nearly 1 million people in 1971, Bengalis died. And nearly 10 million Bengalis came as refugees to India. So we go to the next one, please. And as you can see, this is the East Pakistan at that time. All around is the Air Force stations. And army units were set up all the way around the East Pakistan and to look after the refugees and to catch hold of the able-bodied men and women and train them into military to become Mukti Bahani. And anything who was intelligent and smart was sent to near Sikkim. There was a camp for officers for the Mukti Bahani. So all the officers being Mukti Bahani were being trained over there. And quite a few of our Bengali officers who were in the Indian Army also joined Mukti Bahani to help. And their main aim of Mukti Bahani was to keep harassing the Pakistanis so that they have sleepless nights. And also the pilots and engineers, Bengali pilots, engineers who were with Pakistan Air Force also deserted Pakistan Air Force and came over to India, and they were all moved to Dimapur, and that's where Chandan Singh, group captain at that time, he was station commander of Jorat. He came over there, and they started kilo flight with the aim of training their pilots into our helicopter, our twin otter, and a Dakota. So we had given them 3 aircraft. So they were doing that, I think, from August onwards, or maybe even earlier. And they were training them and preparing them. And their job was almost similar to Mukti Bahani, except they were going to do it from the air. You know, keep attacking an odd truck over here and blow up an odd bridge over here. And the Alwet they had, and the twin otter, they had rockets in it, and had a gun as well. So that's what they were doing. Again, harassing the Pakistanis. Okay, we go to the next one, please. Now, when the war officially started on 3rd of December, so originally, Government of India wanted the war to start in April, May, which you might have seen in the news. But Manik Shah very wisely told Prime Minister that we can't have war during the monsoons. So aim was to have it after October onwards. So that gave everybody time. That gave Indian Army time to prepare ourselves, and Indian Air Force was also had plenty of time. So I was told to train our pilots, and especially in October, Eastern Air Command specially told us do low-level flying and night flying quite a lot. So October, November, we did a lot of low-level flying, and imagine giving all the pilots legally to fly at 100 feet and below, you know, going through the trees, and it's so much fun, you know, especially youngsters flying through the trees and flying so low level. And at night, we used to land at places which didn't have any lights or anything, just for practice. So we were well prepared by the time December came. And I think it was Indian psyche that we didn't want to start the war. We were waiting for Pakistanis to start the war, which is what they did on 3rd of December. And once the war started, the kilo flight had a twin otter and a Alwet fully armed, ready to go. And they were the first ones to go in East Pakistan and blow up some fuel tanks, and one in Chittagong and one in some of the other places. And they did it very successfully. And after that, we all joined in, our Air Force joined in, our helicopters joined in. And the other wise thing Sagat Singh had done was, he'd requested Eastern Air Command and requested Air Headquarters and the Army Headquarters to attach one unit to him. So 110 helicopter became part of 4 Corps. Then he didn't have to go to Eastern Air Command or wherever else to get permission to fly helicopters. He could tell us directly what he wanted us to do. So once the war started on 3rd of December, we were told to disperse our helicopters from Kumbhigram because we thought Pakistan Air Force might come and attack Kumbhigram, which is very close to the border. So we moved 4 helicopters to Telemara, which is near Agartala, as you can see at the bottom. And that's where the 4 Corps headquarters was. And the rest of the helicopters got moved, one to Aijal, one to Imphal, and things like that, just to be out of the airport. And of course, we were getting Kumbhigram ready for the hunters to come later on as well. So they wanted space for them. So in a way, it is a good thing that we started moving out from there. And then Akura, which is just the other side, on the East Pakistan side, was bombing Agartala all the time. Pakistan Army was there. So first thing Sagat Singh did was, he went and got hold of Akura. I think we got Akura by 5th or 6th of December. Akura became part of us. And the bombing stopped at Agartala. So we could use Agartala airport. So then we moved all our helicopters to Agartala. And on the 6th evening, we were told to get ready. Sagat Singh had an idea that we will go and send some soldiers to Sylhet and see if we can contain the brigade over there. So 7th morning, we were told to move to Kalashar, 8 helicopters to Kalashar. Now, we had 12 helicopters by now, 8 of 110 and 4 for 105. And we kept 4 helicopters at Agartala with the aim of casualty evacuation and for communication flights for taking the general around or brigadier around or supplying arms and ammunition. And that's what we were doing on 3rd of December, 4th of December, 5th of December, 6th of December, communication flights, casualty evacuation, even dead bodies we were picking up, bringing them back to base so that we gave them proper rights, and supplying whatever was required by the army. And on the 6th evening, we were told we're going to go to Kailashar, 8 helicopters. So 5 of mine, 110, and 3 of 105, we all went to Kailashar. And Kailashar is a small airstrip on the Indian side, just a kilometer from the border. And Kilo Flight had already moved in there. Group Captain Chanan Singh and his lot were already at Kailashar. And so when we got there, it was chock-a-block, with 8 of our helicopters and 3 of their aircraft. And there was a twin otter, one of the AOP aircraft was also there. So it was chock-a-block. Anyway, we managed to get fuel and such stuff like that organized over there, and engineers moved in there. And we got there in the morning about 9-ish on the 7th of December. And we were told, get ready to go to Kalora, which is just 10 kilometers. You can see the Kalora on the red mark over there. It is just there. And we moved to Kalora by midday. And we were told 4-5 Gurkhas will turn up at midday over there. And but 4-5 Gurkhas had been given a day off because they'd been having so many battles. 3-4 weeks they'd been having a lot of battles, and they'd lost a lot of soldiers in their battles. So 7th of December they had been given a day off. And when Sagar Singh was looking around to find which battalion is available, he said, 4-5 Gurkhas are not doing anything. So he told General Harulkar, please get 4-5 Gurkhas up. I want to send them to Sylhet. So he went and told his soldiers, guys, your day off is finished. Let's get ready. We had to all go to Kalora, and helicopters are waiting over there. So we were told they'll all be there by 12 o'clock. We got there at 12 o'clock. And of course, Kalora was under Indian control at that time, so there was no problem as such. But we sat there, shut down, and waiting for the army to turn up. And of course, by the time they arrived, it was 2:30. And we kept one helicopter down for casualty evacuation in our area, because a lot of battles are still going on in our area. So and I briefed my pilots. I was number 1, then number 2, number 3, number 4. We were going to keep a gap of 3-4 minutes between each other, so that when we land at Sylhet, only one helicopter is on the ground, so the enemy only gets target of 1 helicopter rather than more than 1 or 2. If there are 2 or 3, they get a bigger target. So the briefing was, as soon as the passengers come, load up and go, And that's what I did. I loaded up mine. I got airborne about 2:45. And 20 minutes flying time from, as you can see the line, Kalora to Sylhet. It was not 70 kilometers, it was about 40 odd kilometers, 45 kilometers. And so I went and dropped mine. We had done the survey in the morning to find out where the helipad was going to be in Sylhet. It was after the river Surma. There were 2 bridges there, about 1 kilometer further, and about 10-15 kilometers from the Sylhet town where the garrison was. So I went, I landed my load, I took off, came running back. Second one landed behind me, third one landed behind them. One by one they all came. By the time I came back to Kalora to pick up my next load, we had fuel for 3 trips each. So by the time I came back to Kalora, I picked up my next load. The last one had already gone. So we joined like a circle. By the time our 3rd or 4th helicopter had arrived at Sylhet, Pakistan Army had started surrounding our helipad, and they were firing at us. Our army, General Harulkar and company, had arranged and dispersed our army all the way around so that our helipad area, secure area, became bigger and bigger and bigger, And so by the time I went the second time, the amount of bullets that were coming towards us was huge. And if you see a tracer bullet, that means there are 4 more bullets behind it. So you're only seeing 1, and there are 4 more coming behind it. And it is not only the bullets, they were firing whatever arms they had at us. Only good thing was they were far away. Most of the bullets never reached the helicopter. We'd occasionally get an odd bullet hit here and there, And nobody was injured. Only one of the helicopters got a burst, and one of the passengers in his aircraft died, and 2-3 others got hit. So he overshot and came back and took the injured people to the hospital. Rest of the helicopters probably used to come back with the odd bullet hole here and there. But majority of the time, and where the Colonel Hurulkar had arranged his army, they didn't let the enemy come anywhere closer to us. So we kept going. We did 3 trips each. By the time we finished the 3rd trip and came back to Kalashar, we needed fuel, we needed maintenance, and we landed at Kalashar about 6:15, 6:30, we started landing. While they were maintaining it, one of the engineers came and told me, "Sir, one helicopter has not come back." So we called him up on the radio. He says, "Sir, I'm lost. We have a little valleys at Kalashar area, small 100 feet tall hills." So he had gone into the wrong valley. So we fired a flare, and he saw the flare, so he came over and landed. So we were safe. So they maintained, they got the helicopters ready, they refueled the helicopters. But 7 o'clock we were ready. So I went to group captain, and I said, "Sir, we are ready for the next operation." He had been watching us in an Alvet. He was with Singla, Flight Lieutenant Singla. They had been watching us from the air. And if I could see 100 bullets, he could see the lot. And it was very scary. And helicopters are so slow, and they're so low, anybody can shoot us down. And when you're watching from above, you can make out, look, and you could see all the bullets coming towards us, So he said, "No, guys, we're not going at night. We'll go next morning, because you guys are too low, you're too slow, and you're going to get shot down." So, of course, Brigadier Quinn, who was in charge of that area, he says, "Sir, the war doesn't stop just because it's night." So they had a big power. In the meantime, I told my pilots and engineers, "Please go and sleep," because we hadn't had time to sleep. So everybody was sleeping. I was probably sleeping as well. And 11 o'clock, after a lot of discussion and also talking to Sagat Singh, they said, "Okay, let's send one helicopter and see what happens." So I got woken up and I went and met him. He said, "Get one crew ready. We'll send one helicopter and see what happens. If it comes back, we'll send the rest of the helicopters." So he didn't tell anybody else to get ready. He just wanted, and he was 100% sure the helicopter wasn't coming back. So I told him, I said, "Sir, I'll go, no problem." So I came to the crew room. We had 32 pilots with me. They're all sleeping. So I said, "Guys, I need one volunteer to come with me." Everybody put their hand up. Absolutely amazing. They should have all known it's so dangerous, And so I picked up Flying Officer Kant ready, and we got ourselves ready. About 11:30, we started loading up. 12 o'clock, we got airborne. About midnight. And they've gone and done a beautiful painting. I'll show it to you. If you see that, that's the painting he did for us. And he just put when I was telling him hundreds of bullets, he was trying hundreds of bullets on it. And then he says, "Your helicopters disappeared behind the bullets." So I said, "Don't put hundreds of bullets, just put few, just to give an impression of what's happening." But he's done a wonderful job. And recently, 3rd of December, I'd gone to Pathankot, and 4-5 Gurkhas were doing their 60th golden anniversary. So I presented the original painting to them on the 3rd of December. So we go back now, please. Go back one. Yeah. So I took off went to Kalora, picked up my load, and got airborne just after 12:30. And I knew where the helipad was in daytime. There's a river, there's 2 bridges, about 1 kilometer further. But in nighttime, it's pitch dark. There was no moon even. So I had to guess where the helipad is going to be. And I could be maybe 100 meters out or 200 meters out, and I'll be sitting in enemy territory. But I had a rough idea where I'm going to take them. And I was sure somehow the people on the ground will let me know as well where they are. And luckily, we had Flying Officer Sharma, who had gone as a liaison officer with the army. And he came up on the radio, and I was so glad to hear this voice. About time you guys came, he was telling me, I said, "How are you getting on over there on the ground?" Because they didn't have an HF radio also. So they had not been able to contact us to tell us what the situation was like on the ground. And also, the Pakistan Army had no idea how many people we had dropped there. We were landing all the time. Every 3-4 minutes, one helicopter was landing. And also, BBC had announced that one battalion has been dropped. Indian battalion has been dropped to Sylhet. So that also kept the Pakistan Army quiet. They didn't come anywhere closer. If they knew there were only 254 soldiers over there, they could have easily marched in. They had 7,000 Pakistani soldiers. 2 battalions were there in that area. It is incredible. We were very, very fortunate that they didn't come anywhere near. And Colonel Hurulkar and company was brilliantly installed there, people all the way around the helipad to make sure the Pakistanis get the impression that there's a much bigger force than they were actually there. And these soldiers we had dropped only had maybe 2 days ammunition and shakarparas as food, nothing else, hardly anything they had with them. And they thought we'll keep going. So they hadn't even bothered, they hadn't even taken the HF radio with them. So we had no contact with them, So when this fellow came up on the radio, I was so happy to hear his voice. And he says, I'll light a fire for you. So that's the fire you saw on the painting. You can show the painting again. Yeah, you can see that fire he lit. So I knew exactly where to go. And I told my passengers, I said, guys, as soon as I land, everybody out, I'm airborne in 30 seconds. I'm not going to stay on the ground for much longer than 30 seconds. And that's exactly what we did. As I was coming in, I'm telling you, I can still see the bullets coming towards me. Hundreds and hundreds of bullets are coming to me. I was sure we'll be hit quite a lot. We went, landed, quickly got airborne, and on the way back, as soon as I was away from the helipad, I told my flight engineer, please have a look how many bullet holes we got. And he went with the light on and torch on and went after 2 minutes, came back with a big grin. Sir, you won't believe, we don't have a single bullet hole. I was amazed. I was flabbergasted. I said, the only reason I can think of no bullet holes is they cannot see us. They're only firing at the air, at the sound. So I called up base. I said, come on, guys, these people don't know how to fire. We're all going in. So the other helicopters started getting ready. In the meantime, I went running back, picked up my next load, went running back again, dropped my next load, again got airborne, again without any bullet holes, came running back, picked up my third load, went running back again, landed, dropped my load, got airborne. Third time when I got airborne, my fuel gauge was showing 0. But my engine was running, my rotors was running, so obviously we had fuel. Maybe something happened to the fuel gauge. So anyway, we came running back. In the meantime, the rest of the helicopters were got ready. They were already at Kalora by the time I reached. I landed, and the engineers opened the panel. One bullet had come through the instrument and the engine area into the instrument panel, hit the cable, and stopped there. The bullet actually stopped there because it had slowed down coming through the metal. And the bullet stopped where my finger is. It could have carried on another 2 feet and got me as well, Absolutely amazing. Somebody was watching us. And they changed my fuel gauge. They put fuel in my helicopter, and I joined the rest of the helicopters. So the whole night we were operating. Next day we were operating. 9th morning by 9:30, we had finished Sylhet. Nearly 850 soldiers, including 4-5 Gurkhas, including the artillery guns, including their arms and ammunition of the artillery guns. Colonel Goraya was there. He had loaded up all that. And we delivered all that, and we came back. We finished our job for Gurkhas. But we only kept going there again and again to supply arms and ammunition and pick up any casualties and any dead bodies. Regularly, throughout the war, we kept going. We used to keep sending helicopters. And later on, we discovered, after my operation that day, we discovered it was much easier to go at night than in daytime. Because daytime, we were more visible. Nighttime, we were not visible. So a lot of the night casualty evacuations and all, we did at night from there. Now, must remember, our helicopter, the only navigation aid we had was a little magnetic compass and a gyro compass. And that's it. There were no GPS those days. And our helicopter was very, very basic. And no autopilots. All manual flying. But very reliable helicopter. Never let us down. Kept going. No bother at all. So anyway, we go to the next one, please. So that's the helipad, Sylhet helipad. And that's the helicopter you can see without the big hole at the back. The clamshell door has been removed. We always landed. We didn't ask people to jump from the helicopter. We always landed, and we delivered the soldiers. But you can see the big hole at the back. So anybody could have dropped off. But fortunately, throughout the 2 weeks, we didn't lose anybody. Next one, please. So we came back to Agartala. I had briefed all my pilots to go back to sleep. After their normal routine, they went back to sleep. And I was probably sleeping as well. Then I got a message from Sagat Singh to come, and he was going to show us where to go next. Now, he was so impressed with our operation to Sylhet. He says, I know how to go to Dhaka now, because he wanted to go to Dhaka. And the government of India, General Manekshaw, General Arora, everybody's plan was we will capture as much as possible of East Pakistan. And then we will put the refugees back. Nobody had any idea that they're going to catch Dhaka. And nobody thought we can get to Dhaka. No, because there were so many rivers there, so many riverines there. And only bridge was Coronation Bridge, which is highly fortified by the Pakistan Army. It would have been almost impossible to go over the Coronation Bridge. And I mean, not impossible, but it would have been very difficult, and we would have lost a lot of people. And in any case, when they realized that our army was moving so quickly, the Pakistanis blew up the Coronation Bridge as well. So there was no bridge. But in the meantime, Sagat Singh had seen what we had done in Sylhet. He says, now I know how to get to Dhaka. So he said, about 9:30, 10, just after 10 o'clock on the 9th of December, he asked me to come over to the helicopter. He had an Alvet, 6-seater, 3 seats in the front, 3 at the back. 2 pilots were sitting in the front. Sagat Singh was sitting in the back, in the front. Myself, my CO, and 1 brigadier was sitting at the back, 6 of us. So he showed us to Raipura. As you can see, Raipura is across the river, river Meghna. So we saw Raipura. Then on the way back, he said, let me have a look at Ashuganj and the Coronation Bridge, which was blown up. So we started descending down. On the way out, we had gone at 5,000 feet. 5,000 feet is above the small arm fire. On the way back, he says that area is under Indian control. We can come down. So we came down to 1,000 feet. Suddenly, we heard this noise. Foot. Bullets were going right through the helicopter. And the pilot got injured on his shoulder. The co-pilot took over. He climbed away quickly. And we came back to base and landed. As we landed, I ran out of the helicopter and started preparing for my operation. I had to brief, I had to get the helicopters ready, get the pilots ready, and brief them and everything. Later on in the evening, I came to know, in that Alvet, there were 38 bullet holes. 19 bullets had gone through that helicopter. The pilot got injured on his shoulder. Sagat Singh had a bullet go right across his forehead, for which he got a wound medal. That's the only medal he got throughout the war. And none of us got injured. None of us got hit. How those 19 bullets missed all of us was absolutely amazing. Somebody, again, was watching us and keeping an eye on us. Anyway, we came back, and then 9th evening, we went to Brahma Barrier, and 3:30 we landed there. 4 o'clock, the operation was going to start crossing the Meghna. And when we shut down there, waiting for the army to come, we saw so many dead bodies on the riverside of Meghna. At least 300 odd dead bodies are there. So we asked the local people, what happened here? He says, sir, this Pakistanis army was running away from here, and they grabbed whoever they could grab and killed them. No reason. Men, women, children, didn't matter. They just killed them. What you can achieve by that, I have no idea at all. It is so sad, and that's fortunately or something, that is the only dead bodies we saw, because the rest of the time we were flying, we had no time to shut down to watch anything. But very, very sad to see the genocide they were creating wherever they were going, you know. So anyway, we started our operation at 4 in the evening, and we kept hopping across. And I had 8 helicopters. We divided them into 4 each. And the 1-4 was going to land at Raipur. We made 2 helipads at Raipur, about half a kilometer from each other. And the idea was that one set of 4 helicopters will go to the left one, other set will go to the right one, and I'll do left circle, and the other one will do right circle. So we could operate 2 helicopters at the same time. There was no enemy there. You know, enemy was far away. So that's what we're doing, and half a kilometer was a sufficient gap between the 2 helicopters. And it is getting dark in the evening. It is getting, but it didn't matter to us because the fire was lit for us over there as well. So we knew where the helipad was. I had briefed my pilots that no overshooting. If there is a problem, to slow down. If the first helicopter is still on the ground, to slow down or land to one side or the other, because there was enough space to land. So as I was the number 1 again, I landed, and for some reason I was delayed. And I was just going to get airborne. And my intuition told me, wait. And I waited for a minute, and the helicopter behind me had overshot. And he went right on top of me. If I had lifted, I would have gone into him. Again, somebody was watching me. And once he had gone, of course, I got airborne, and we carried on with the operation. Whole night we were operating. When we needed fuel, we came back to Agartala, we filled up fuel. Again, we went back and kept flying. And 3 o'clock, I got a message from one of the pilots. We never called anybody on radio unless it was an emergency. One of the pilots said, sir, I got no passengers. The second one said, sir, I got no passengers. Third one said, I got no passengers. Fourth one said, I got no passengers. I said, guys, let's shut down. We've been flying whole night. We'll have a little break, and I'll find out what's going on. So we shut down, and there was one lieutenant colonel there. He said, I want all the 8 helicopters for my unit. I said, come on, sir. You're delaying the war effort. By shutting down, you already delayed us by 10 minutes. And if you keep doing like this, we're coming back in 10 minutes anyway. So eventually, he understood what I was getting at. So he loaded up, and then the whole night we were operating. The next day we were operating. By the end of the day, end of the 10th, we had finished. Before the 10th finished, we finished nearly 1,000 soldiers. We dropped to Raipura. And when they got to Raipura, 4 guards and all these other units we had dropped there, they were told, carry on to Narasingdi. As you can see, Narasingdi is towards Dhaka. So they started moving towards Narasingdi. We came back to Brahmabaria, and then we came back to Agartala. And we got our aircraft service, refueled and everything. And we got a message from Chandan Singh. Next is Narasingdi. And he wanted us to go to Brahmabaria the night before, stay overnight there so that we can start first flight in the morning on the 11th morning. And that's what we did. When we reached Brahmabaria, we only found a hall, maybe as big as this one. 60 of us put our beds down and sleep. There was no food there. There was hardly any facility for toilets or anything, but didn't matter. So much Josh was there. We all went to sleep. 5 o'clock in the morning, we got up, got into the helicopter. 5:30, first flight, we got airborne. And whole day we were operating. The following day we were operating. And we delivered in about 2 days. We delivered nearly 1,000 soldiers to Narasingdi. And then we came back. He said, and Agartala again, we were resting. And in the meantime, we are doing casualty evacuations. In the meantime, we are picking up, supplying arms and ammunition wherever they wanted us to go, all over, wherever the wars were going on. And so we came back to Agartala. Again, we started getting ready. And we were told one more operation. Okay, we go to the next one, please. As you can see at the bottom here. That was the last operation. That was the last operation we did. We carried up on the 13th, 14th, and 15th morning. We delivered 1,200 soldiers in that area. So total, we can go to the next one, please. This is one of the paintings done by Group Captain Deb Gohan. It's a beautiful painting, giving you a representation of what was going on during the war. 4 helicopters landing together, crossing the river Meghna. And Mukti Bhani is there, and the soldiers are there. And it took nearly more than a year for Group Captain Deb Gohan to draw this. And Unni Kartha, who's my co-author, sitting in Hyderabad, was telling Deb Gohan in Guwahati how to draw it, how to draw this, how to draw this. Beautiful. It was a combined effort between the two of them. But it came out beautifully. And we made nearly 150 copies of this, and we sent them all over India. And even to Bangladesh. We sent it to the High Commissioner of Bangladesh. He's given it to the Chief of Air Staff of Bangladesh, Chief of Army Staff in Bangladesh. And here it is in NDA and in Staff College and in IMA and wherever. Whoever asked me, we send them a copy as a present from us. Because this is the best way to spread the story. A book you read and you put it in a shelf, but this is available on a map and is visible to story. It's the best way to tell your story. So that's what we did. Okay, go to the next one, please. This just shows you what we were doing. This is a gun which has been broken up in pieces, and they're carting it away. And the locals were so helpful. Wherever we went, hundreds and hundreds would turn up and help us to load the stuff, carry the stuff. And they would bring food for us. They'll bring bananas and apples, and not apples, the eggs and boiled eggs and stuff like that. And we were giving them money, and they were surprised that because Pakistanis never gave them any money. They were so surprised that these soldiers are giving us money for whatever they were offering us. So they were very, very helpful, very, very helpful. And as you can see, what all we were doing, we can show you some more pictures, I think. Next one. Yeah, some more pictures. Now there was no enemy there, so we were flying 4 helicopters together so that we can carry about 50 soldiers there all at the same time. And that's the first scan. Colonel Bahel, I think his name was. He fired the first shot into Dhaka, I think on the 13th of December. Next one, please. These are the figures for each operation. This is all in the book. We put it in the book. As you can see, more than 4,000 soldiers and more than 700 tons of equipment was lifted from the 7th of December to the 15th of December. And literally flying 24/7, literally, carrying on without, as I said again before, not a single accident. And youngsters, most of the pilots were in their 20s, absolutely incredible. And these are the people we lifted on the way back, and the casualty evacuations and stuff like that. And this is all rough figures. We didn't draw, we didn't make a manifest, we didn't write anybody's name, we didn't weigh anybody. There was no time, and then no facility, So we were just guessing. And we should just lift the helicopter. Can I lift, can I lift, can I lift? And oh yeah, I can manage and get airborne, Absolutely incredible, absolutely. And of course, somebody asked me, how were you landing at night? Because you're sitting on the top, it's pitch dark. So we should just guess slowly, yes, I've touched, and then land over there, It was absolutely incredible. And we learned, as we got better, we got better as well as the days went on. Okay, we go to the next one, please. Just shows you the tanks and all, which swam across the river Meghna as well, and they came over, and our helicopters, where all we were landing, just preparing, getting closer and closer to Dhaka all the time. And because of us and bypassing everything and reaching Dhaka, we had 4,000 odd soldiers sitting outside Dhaka, and then Tangail drop took place. That's another 750 people from there came closer to us. And of course, in the meantime, BBC was announcing we are encircling whole of Dhaka, and then General Jacob went there on the 15th. 15th ceasefire took place, and the 16th, General Jacob went there and provided the surrender document. And he told them straightforward, I'm putting it very mild, openly, that he said, either you surrender or you die, you got no choice. Because if he had let the Bengalis in, they would have butchered everybody. They would have killed the whole lot. And so I think Niazi was wise enough to accept the surrender, because we looked after them after that, So, and okay, we go to the next one, please. That's the surrender summary, and the surrender summary was 16th. Avro started arriving before we knew the surrender summary is going to take place. They came from Calcutta, and the only way people could go to Dhaka was by helicopters. And we had Alberts there, and we had helicopters, ME-4s there. Alberts were used by the VIPs. And I was told, take 5 ME-4s, prepare 5 ME-4s, and only the pilots flying will be going to Dhaka. And I said, yes, sir. And I had 25 spare pilots and engineers. So I divided them into 5 each, and I pushed them in the helicopter first. Then I loaded up all the reporters. I smuggled 25 people. My reasoning was that we had put a life on the line, and I didn't want any of my pilots and engineers to miss once in a lifetime ceremony. And so I took all of them, and it was wonderful, absolutely wonderful, absolutely thoroughly enjoyed ourselves. And we got there about 4-ish, 4:15, and they were just like the Second World War movies. When the Americans went into Paris, everybody wanted to hug us, everybody wanted to hold us, they wanted to give us flowers, they wanted to give us gifts and all kinds of things. Absolutely incredible. It is a scene literally out of the movies. And then there were so many trucks and vans and buses and whatever, and they all gave us lift into the Madan. And 4:31 or something, the time when the signature took place. It was just gorgeous. I don't even remember what time we came back, maybe about midnight. And after we came back, of course, we were celebrating, and Sagar Singh and FOCO was still in Dhaka, and they took over control of Dhaka, and they took over of looking after the law and order. And I'm just guessing now, the way he must have told Army, Navy, Air Force of the Pakistani, Bengalis people, and the police, you go back to work and start working normally. And that is how, I think, and of course our army was in charge of everybody. And Sagar Singh stayed on till February, and in the meantime, Bangladesh government had started coming in. And our helicopters were still going in regularly. I was there for 6 weeks myself. 110 was sending regular helicopters. And we were carrying engineers around, we were taking our army around, and our engineers' job was to restore the water, restore the electricity, restore the normal day-to-day living. But imagine when the Bengalis came to took over the Bangladesh, the country was literally no chaos, you know. No looting was going on, no raping was going on, nothing. He made sure, Sagat Singh made sure. And after the war finished, end of February, he went back home and kept a low key. He didn't tell anybody what he had done. It took so many years before people came to know it was Sagat Singh who created Bangladesh. If it had not been for Sagat Singh, if it had not been for his one-track mind of going to Dhaka, because the Indian army and Indira Gandhi and everybody just wanted half of East Pakistan so that we could put the refugees back. The other half of East Pakistan would have been part of Pakistan. Can you even imagine what Bangladesh would look like if half of it belonged to Pakistan? It would have been harrowing. And the only guy who could see that was Sagat Singh. And he was told time and time again, don't cross Meghna, don't cross Meghna, don't go to Dhaka. That is not our destination. And Sagat Singh, sir, he said, that is the only place we have to go. He was the only one with that vision. So it was nearly 20 years after the war, people started realizing it was Sagat Singh. And Government of India gave him some civilian honor. And Bangladesh invited his son to come. I think Sagat Singh had died. Invited his son to come over and gave him a freedom of the city. Only more than 20 years later, can you imagine? Everybody else was taking the honors. You know, Sam Manekshaw was taking the honors, Jacob was taking the honors, everybody was, and Aurora was taking the honors. Our friend Sagat Singh was keeping quiet, not telling anybody anything. And in my view, he was one of the best generals I've worked with, you know. Absolutely the most wonderful gentleman. And I've been dealing with his granddaughter is called Meghna. And I've been talking to her, and I've sent her paintings, the 2 paintings we got. They got a little museum in Jaipur in the son's house, you know, so I sent them some paintings. And wonderful, absolutely gorgeous. What a pleasure to be dealing with her as well. And literally, I'm saying it again, just Sagat Singh, Bangladesh came into being. And this time in December, we went to Vijay Diwas. I was one of the people, about 50, 60 of us volunteers had gone. And what a way Bangladesh government looked after us. Absolute treat, VIP. And I met some of the Air Force officers, Bangladesh Air Force officers there. And I told them my story. They had not heard of it. So I said, I must come and tell you guys, give me my presentation as well. So I've told the Chief of Air Staff as well. I've requested him if I can go to Bangladesh. So maybe it'll happen at some point. But I've given them my books. I'd taken about 6, 7 books with me, and I posted some more when I came back. And they're aware of what we had done. But they were amazingly not aware of what we had done, you know, when I was telling them the story. Absolutely amazing. Just like we didn't know over here, Bangladesh, of course, had no idea of what we had done. And I think we were one of the reasons the war finished in 13 days, because we were able to deliver the soldiers outside Dhaka. And you need what the fighters did, what the transport did, our Indian Air Force was wonderful. Fighters bombed the hell out of that president's, governor's house. And he straight away said, I'm resigning, and they wanted to surrender straight away. All those people is wonderful, but you need foot on the ground. You need soldiers on the ground to take over the country. And that's what Sagat Singh had provided. And we were instrumental in getting them next to Dhaka. And I think we were one of the reasons the war finished so quickly. I'm not saying the only reason. There were hundreds of reasons. Our Navy did wonders. They blocked Chittagong. They bombed the hell out of Karachi. Everybody did their own. An army, wow, wonderful, the stuff army was doing. But, you know, as I said, as Sagat Singh, one-track mind made a huge difference to the war. So that's my story finished. If anybody has any questions, this is the Kilo Flight Twin Elvet, and the Twin Otter was similar. They also had a rocket, and they had a gun, you know, which they were using for firing at the enemy. And the next one is, of course, question answer, and then that's the book outside. Okay, any questions you have, you're more than welcome to ask me. As soldiers, we were carrying roughly 12, 13 soldiers at a time. We were, our original payload allowed was 1.5 tons, but I think we were carrying more than 2 tons, you know, 2.25 tons often. overloaded like hell. Yeah, okay. No current.
Thank you, sir. We will now have a tribute being paid to the late Wing Commander Unni Kartha by our esteemed life member, Major General Jose Manavalan, AVSM. Before I invite General to the podium, let me introduce him. He has had an illustrious career that spanned 37 years as a combat engineer with the famed Madras Sappers. He is a veteran of two wars, the 1971 Bangladesh War and the IPKF operations in Sri Lanka. He is in a unique position to pay tribute to the late Wing Commander since they have been lifelong friends, having belonged to the same course as the cadets in the National Defence Academy, the 37th NDA. Now I invite General to pay the tribute.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to thank Captain Ramachandran for inviting me for this function and the privilege to speak about my close friend and buddy, Wing Commander Unni Kartha. I was in the same course as him in NDA. He was in Foxtrot Squadron and I was in his neighboring squadron called Golf Squadron. And in NDA we had a lot to do with each other. And most of our interactions started after we retired and met each other. During our service, unfortunately, I never got to meet him. By the tributes which we saw after he passed away on all social media, I was floored by the extent and reach to which Unni had transcended himself to the whole world. His writings and his personality had impressed so many that I'm told in Twitter alone he had more than 1 lakh hits. That was the extent of outpouring of grief at Unni's passing. I was closely working with Unni on various other things, including I was encouraging him to complete this book, which he was doing with Squadron Leader Pushp Vaid, and he almost when he moved from Hyderabad to Puttaparthi, he said he was moving there to finally come to terms with life because he knew he had cancer and he wanted to go and be somewhere peaceful where he could meditate and pass off into Valhalla, as he says. So there he finally finished his book, put everything together, and just a month before he passed away, he was able to send it to Squadron Leader Pushp Vaid, who finally put it into place and sent it to Unni's nephew, who edited it, and that's what you see in the book. The book is wonderful. It's a really graphic account of the Meghna crossing. And we did not know it. I was also part of that. And I was at Brahmanbaria operating steamers. We were asked to transport troops across the Meghna in steamers, which we had taken from the locals who came and volunteered their services. So we had hundreds of steamers transporting troops across the Meghna, as well as guns. We had made Bailey floating rafts in which guns were loaded, and we towed them across the river to reach to the other side at Narsingdi. So from Brahmanbaria, we were operating hundreds of ferries transporting troops across the Meghna by river. So along with the helicopter effort, there was the river effort as well, where we sappers got into the act. It was wonderful to be there at that time. We did not know the magnitude and scale of the operation which Unni and Squadron Leader Pushp have put together, and now we know what all transpired in that war. Unni Kartha is an enigma, a truly brilliant officer, brilliant man who had a mind of his own. And he was one of the first who converted to helicopters. Then he was sent to France to do a course, came back, and was the first commanding officer of the Mi-35's attack helicopters. And he was the first one who launched his squadron along with the Corps in the deserts to fine-tune how helicopters can interact and work together with the army in ground operations. He had his own views, and he differed very strongly with many of his seniors and elders, and that's where maybe he burnt his career. But thereafter, when he was in the air headquarters and he was told that he's not making it to the next rank, the same day, on the same table, he wrote out his resignation and stepped out of uniform. Thereafter, he worked in many civil construction engineering firms till he came back to India. All throughout his life, he has been a master crafter as far as words are concerned. He was a wordsmith. He could conjure up a story from anything. Anything, he puts a story into it with a twist, and he would come up with a story that is so enjoyable and so readable. His most memorable stories of his blog were from the time he was in Chakabama. Chakabama is the brigade headquarters in Nagaland, where he was sent on a punishment posting. Unni Kartha was I would say, a naughty guy, and all COs wanted to keep him away from their headquarters. So he was sent to Chakabama with his helicopter, and here he was in the middle of nowhere, and most of his stories you read would be of Chakabama, where he did such daring things which the CO himself was horrified to recount or report upwards, but he got away with all of that. And his reputation as an Air Force officer grew from Chakabama. If I meet the BM of that brigade was later on my GOC, and he would tell me stories about Unni that I could now read in his blogs throughout the last few years that we've been reading them. Those blogs have been put into 2 books, and those of you who haven't read it, I do recommend that you take both those books. They are an account of his life, both in RIMC, NDA, and also in his service life. They're very humorous, and they paint a picture of what we all go through in our careers. Unni sadly is no longer with us. He was way ahead of his time, and we do miss him, as many of us have been closely in touch with him when he was in service. Unni Kartha, I would say, was way ahead, and I would like to pay my tribute to him through a poem which I wrote the moment he died. We often would joke with each other who would write our eulogies, and unfortunately it came to me, and this is what I wrote. Can you bring it on the screen, please? I was able to go to Puttaparthi and meet him in his final days, as also to Bangalore, where he was undergoing chemo, and thereafter I couldn't go on his last trip home. This is the small poem I wrote. Unni Aka Cyclic flew away on his last mission. To Puttaparthi he went and made his last stand. He faced rough weather, but Devi and Vinod were with him. He decided to go and stay in Puttaparthi because his sister was there, Devi, to adjust his rotor speed and send him on his way. No ejection seat this time. To Valhalla you go. Maverick that he was, daredevil to the core, Mokok Chung, Chakabama and Chabua were where he earned his spurs. So often he regaled us with tales of yore, with long yarns and old monk rum. Buster Baines and Solly preceded him. They were his big friends. I'm sure they're flying high now in Valhalla. 37 NDA was his domain. Rimkolian he was to the core. Keen foxy to boot. Helped shape Unni the man. Magnetic and affable he was. Maybe his funny bone came from Ambalapura. Fish curry and all. He wove humor and fact into a fascinating tale and left us with Dil Mange More. That was Unni. Thank you very much. Okay. Oh, yeah, sorry. A wordsmith he was for sure, but ailments he had a score. Maybe he scripted his farewell too, wanted us to remember him as the Unni of yore. Many lives he has touched, many grieving friends too. Goodbye, dear Foxy and Buddy. Hope you're having a ball in Valhalla. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. May I now request Squadron Leader Pushp Vaid to hand the first copy of the book MI4s at War to Air Marshal B. Manikandan, AVSM, VM. May I request Air Marshal to come to the dais, please? Thank you, sir. I now request Major General Jose Manavalan to hand the first copy of Cyclic Stories to Major General R.M. Srinivas. Thank you, sir. I now request Air Marshal S. Varthaman to hand the first copy of Cyclic Rides Again to Mr. Balaji Kartha and a copy of Cyclic Stories to Mr. Preman Kartha. Thank you, sir. We will now have a question and answer session moderated by our Honorable Trustee, Commodore Kumar Garg, VSM. Commodore Garg is an accomplished naval aviator who has had 36 years of distinguished service before he sought premature retirement in 2019 for domestic compulsions. He was the Deputy Director General, NCC Tamil Nadu, Puducherry, Andaman and Nicobar Islands at the time of his retirement. I now invite Commodore to the podium to moderate the Q&A session and to propose the vote of thanks after that.
Good evening, everybody. After hearing such a goose pimple story to all of us, and talking about air-land battle, and getting a naval officer, a officer who was in 63 commission, an officer was 63rd course, a 71 war and class 4th, I have to moderate the whole issue. What is well, it's an honor to moderate this session of question answers. My only request is please one question at a time and keep the question short and crisp so we can answer it. Yes. The first question, a short introduction, a short name.
I'm a retired group captain from the Indian Air Force. I retired in 2019. I was from the Air Traffic Controllers branch. So my question is, this was an eye-opener, sir. Your narration made us aware, not only the people who left service, I'm sure people who have retired earlier also, an eye-opener to what events had taken place, which for whatever reasons have been not exposed to public domain. Is there any conscious attempt, notwithstanding your effort, for reviving interest in defense history, historical studies? Is there anything that is in the offing?
Can you hear me? Yeah. There are 2 documentaries. I requested Chief of Air Staff, and he's already authorized Air Force, Indian Air Force, to make a documentary. That is already being processed. And there's another civilian group who is also working on making a documentary, but they are funding it themselves. And the best part is, I met Vikram Aditya. He's the director. They're going to make a movie. And I went to Mumbai on 3rd of January, and I met the director, met the producer, met the writer. They've been working on it already for 18 months, nearly 18 months. They met Unni Kartha as well, more than a year ago, got all the information, and they approached us. We didn't approach them, they approached us. So they've been working on it, and they got 271 war in the offing. First one is the Karachi firing, bombing by the Indian Navy, which hopefully should start shooting by end of this year, and should come out by the beginning of next year. And after that, they're going to do ours. So I asked him, what about the fighters? What about the transport? And they said, no, we're only going to concentrate on 2 weeks of a helicopter operation. So it's just going to be our operation. Hopefully, by middle of next year, we might be close to coming. And I Googled Vikram Aditya, and I found he got a mile-long queue showing how many wonderful movies he's made. So a lot of time for him. So I'm so glad it's happening.
But I think this culture is coming up now. A lot of the Colors of Glory started. We see our blogs, a lot of issues keep coming World War II onwards. Similarly, movies are coming based on that. They're different, they get a lot of song drama in that, get distorted. But I think the culture is coming up, a lot of top secret so-called. Now people are getting the gist out of it, what could be message to public, what forces did or doing, or message to young generation, what actually inspiration is all about. It's coming up slowly. Thank you, sir. Next question, please. Yeah, ma'am.
Hello. Hi, sir. I'm Preetika Parshuraman. I'm a journalist for the Times of India. It was a pleasure listening to you. And my question is, when we hear about these incidents and anecdotes, it's inspiring, and we truly respect the bravery. But why don't you share with us little moments of vulnerabilities? How did you manage those stressful situations? And what is your advice for people who want to learn about military and aviation?
You see, one of the ladies asked me, Chandan Singh thought you're not going to come back, when she was interviewing me. And what did you think she's asking me? I said I was only thinking of the 250 soldiers I had dropped, and we had marooned them. They'd been sitting there for 6 hours without any contact with us. And I had no thought of, I was not scared or anything. NDTV also asked me, and I did an interview with them in December. And why are you not scared? I said there was no time to be scared. We were moving so fast. We were doing so fast. The things were happening so quickly. And so I had no thought of that any of those bullets are going to hit me. Or we used to come back and say, I got 1 bullet or 2 bullets. The other thing is, I'm always an optimist. I always think positive. So when you think positive things happen to you. When you think negative things happen to you. So it's always, like first thing in the morning, when you wake up and you open your eyes, you should smile. And somebody asked me why. I said the very fact that you're alive, that's good enough reason to smile. And the more you smile, and when you're going past the street somewhere, when you meet somebody on the way, just smile at them, and they smile back. Both of you feel happy without even knowing each other. You know, it's such an important thing to do regularly. You know, majority of the time we're just running past each other, not even saying hello to anybody. And often when I go for walks in the park and all, I'm always saying namaste ji, good morning, good evening, and often majority of the people respond. Majority of the people respond with a big smile. Imagine two of you smiling at each other without even knowing. You know, you both will feel happy. You know, it's nice to be optimistic all the time. I'm always optimistic. The other thing which I tell everybody, look after your health. Health is so important. Nothing comes close to your health. You know, you might have millions and millions of dollars and pounds or rupees or whatever in your bank account. If your health is not with you, you're not going to enjoy it. And I take classes for well-being up in Scotland. And I tell them, guys, I'm 82 years old. I don't take a single tablet. I got no aches and pains. I do what I like, when I want to do, you know. And that's how everybody should be.
Thank you, sir. I'll keep this in mind.
And especially here in India, we got yoga everywhere. Everybody should do yoga.
Yes.
Hello, sir. Oh, it's been an overwhelming experience hearing your narration. And actually, when I came inside and saw all these Air Force officers, I don't know, I was feeling like I'm surrounded by such courageous, heroic men. No? So, and hearing your story, I mean, I had goosebumps, and in fact, my tears welled up. I mean, my eyes welled up. Did you ever think that while you were doing all those flying and rescuing operations, did you ever think you would write about this one day? And another thing is, when you were co-authoring with him, I mean, did you see eye to eye on every instance, or did you have fights and arguments with Mr. Kartha, Unni Kartha?
Unni Kartha, I think he was a most wonderful gentleman I came across, and it is only because of him people came to know about the story. Because I'm sitting in Scotland, I had hardly any reach, I had hardly any contacts in India. It's only when he came on the line, wow, after that people came to know what we had done. Because he had a huge following. And of course he introduced me to the College of Air Warfare, he took me to helicopter training school and so many other places. And then Color of Glory did wonders 2 years ago on Zoom. I gave a talk. Wow, what a pleasure it was to be able to talk to 250 people sitting at my home in Scotland. It was really good fun. So it's been a Unni Kartha, even the book, 80% of the book is Unni Kartha's book, because he did all the research. I landed at Sylhet, but I don't know where I landed in Sylhet. He actually pinpointed lat and long of the position I landed in Sylhet. And he found out, he told 4-5 Gurkhas, what pictures have you got of Sylhet? So they gave him pictures also, they gave him the location also. Similarly, he did for Raipura, similarly he did for Narasingdi. Exact location where I landed. I had no idea. I only landed at Narasingdi. I don't know where Narasingdi is. You know, it's just a place on the map. But he found out. So Unni Kartha, hats off to the gentleman. And in fact, when he had cancer, I was telling him, wait, my friend, it's all ready. The book is all ready. The book is all, don't die on me. The book has to come out before you die. Give me another month. Give me another month. And, you know, he saw the last draft before he passed away. But it was wonderful. I'm so happy that he took me on board and we correlated with it. I went and stayed with him in Hyderabad 3-4 days. And when the movie people came, I sent them to Unni. I said, don't go to anybody else. Just go to Unni. And they spent 2 days with him, and Unni gave them all the briefing that he knew that should go into the movie. You know, so they got records of what they spent. Literally 2 days in Hyderabad, and Unni looked after them. He actually cooked lunches for them as well. Absolutely incredible. You know.
I can just see your adrenaline rush. No, I can understand you just worked all those days just with the adrenaline rush.
Yeah.
No food, nothing. My God, seriously, hats off to you guys. Thank you so much. I know. I was not born in 71, so I'm so overwhelmed by this whole experience. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for keeping us safe always.
Thank you, Vaid, sir. The lady told everybody, she saw Air Force officers here, he got scared. You changed the perception today. Thank you so much for your stories. Thank you, ma'am.
As a Pongo, I'm asking this question. You know, in the army, we have a recognition for the glorious actions that you did, which I can see the Veer Chakra that you have got. Similarly, my battalion and my brigade and all, which took part, they get theatre honors, battle honors, etc. Is there a facility like that? Your 110 helicopter squadron got a recognition by theatre honors?
You see, that is another thing. You see, because I didn't tell anybody what happened.
No, but
In 1971, when I went to the chief, and I told the chief on 2nd of January, I said, is there any way of recognizing our pilots, our engineers, our flight engineers? They did wonders. They did literally wonders. And our engineers, for example, they were working out in the field 24/7 and with hardly any resources and kept every helicopter flying. And similarly, flight engineers, they were the last one in, the first one out. Absolutely incredible the way they were handling. So I was telling him, I said, sir, you should find some way of recognizing.
is there any knowledge? Have you got any indication that it is being done?
We haven't been told. Nothing.
But even if it is not told, 4 Corps headquarters under whom you are directly working must have their war diaries and must have said about your actions.
Yeah.
Must have made a mention about. So therefore, the grant of this battle honors and theatre honors would be there for said
Actually, I plan to go to 4 Corps. I've told the air headquarters I want to go to 4 Corps, so they're arranging for me to go to Tezpur and give them a presentation and listen to what they got for us. I want to go there as well.
Give a personal example of what my battalion did and it's not recognized.
Yeah.
My commanding officer who retired long ago was called to the army headquarters. He made a presentation to the 3 chiefs and the battle honors committee sat down and the honor was recognized and the battle honor Shyamgand was accorded to my battalion later on.
Okay.
So something similar should happen to you also.
I agree with you. I've been pushing for it, but nobody is listening to me at the moment.
No, so sir, Colors of Glory, the facilitator, CNC South is here. Air CNC South is here. He's taking the case.
Yeah.
No, he's noting down right now. He's noting down right now.
I told the chief, and I also told him. I said even the Bangladesh government should recognize what we did. Because even Bangladesh, when I went to Bangladesh, Dhaka, in last December, I met 2 Air Force officers, Air Commodores. One was the helicopter guy, and one was the head of intelligence. And when I was telling them my story, they were amazed. They had never heard of it, and they were lit. I gave them books. I gave everybody books, and I was telling the chief, I said, even Bangladesh government should recognize what we did. You're right. We should have some kind of battle honors for 110. I'll tell 110 as well. I'm going to 110 in. Yeah. Please, any help will be very welcome. Nobody's done anything. I've been pushing it for it, but nobody's done anything.
So,
thank you very much for an exhilarating talk, sir. It was really moving. You spoke so highly about General Sagat, sir. One question is that I believe when Sagat was the co-commander and he was asked not to go across the Meghna, the army commander gave him a direct order, and General Sagat called him by his first name, and he said, I am giving you an aim plus by going across, why are you stopping me? And I believe the army commander said, hold on till I come. And they had a little spat by which General Sagat said, I am going across the Meghna, and the army commander didn't have a choice and he went back, and that's how it happened. Since you were there, sir, could you tell us something about that, sir?
When we crossed the Meghna the first time, went to Raipura, General Arora flew all the way from Calcutta, came to Agartala, and told off Sagat Singh. And he told him that you have to bring the army back. I don't want you guys to cross the Meghna. Bring them back. And Sagat Singh said, no, the only place I'm going to go is Dhaka. I'm not going anywhere else. And they had a spat, and eventually Arora agreed. He says, why should I fight with people in other places, which has got no meaning for me? I'll be losing time. I'll be losing soldiers. Dhaka is the place to go. And he was wise. He was the only guy who had this vision of going to Dhaka. So he had a little spat, and eventually Arora agreed, okay, let's go to Dhaka.
Thank you, sir. And also of General Sagat again, Doc Sridharan, that 19-year-old pilot who was there, he had recounted an anecdote of General Sagat literally kicking out Claire Bollingworth, the journalists. Were you there at that particular point in time where he booted her out of the party because she was defaming the Indians?
Yeah, absolutely. He kicked her out.
Can you just share it just
No,
to show
this-
why I am asking this is, sir, I believe later I've been doing some reading and we interacted also when I spoke about General Sagat. Probably cost him his next rank is what is said. Could you tell us?
I don't think it cost him his next rank. What cost him his next rank was because he was not obeying orders per se, inverted commas. The fact that the orders are wrong, nobody seemed to be caring, And as I mentioned, for nearly 20 years, he kept low, and by the time, and he didn't tell anybody what we had done, because even the Bangladesh didn't know that it was because of him Bangladesh came to be. So it is just potluck. Of course, Aurora and Manekshaw were upset with him because he was not listening to them, But the fact that he was right and they were wrong, it didn't matter to them. And they took all the credit. They took all the credit for getting the Bangladesh.
Thank you, sir.
And it's only veterans like us who later on woke up to the fact and started making noise that Sagat Singh came into being,
Mine is not a question, it's a suggestion. Many educated people have been telling me that whatever we know about the 71 war and similarly the IPKF war will all vanish the moment some of us who are alive pass away. After we go, who is going to know what happened? One of the suggestions they gave was to have a chair, institute a chair in one of the universities like Madras University, which carries out studies into the wars you are interested in. So if there's anybody who can take this idea forward, I don't mind working with him to see that we institute a chair. It needs funding and it needs studies every year. Thank you.
Especially 71 war was such an important war which we won.
With the due regards and respects to all the officers in many uniform as well as the veterans, the last point what was raised, I am from NCC Udan, an organization, and I also have my president here, Colonel Lakshmanan. We have taken up a small activity called Operation 1971, a stage play curated by Major General Indra Malan, the former Chief of Staff of Dakshin Bharat area. We have been promoting this play all over the place, right from Delhi to Kanyakumari. This play is exclusive about the 1971 war. This is a small part that we are playing. So we are putting up a repository, information, incidents. Our Colonel Krishna Swamy sir, he is also involved and is a part of the team. So this is a small part, and we'll also be very, very happy to lend our hands, resources in making this and taking it to the country and the youth at large. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, sir. I'm Colonel Sriram, sir. I've been enlightened by your talk on the probably most outstanding example of jointmanship we ever heard about, sir. Now, having said that, sir, you've been closely associated with the Indian Army heli lifting forces, and then you've been associated with the forces abroad also. What's your current view, sir, on what the talk which is going on about jointmanship and theaterization in specific? Do you visualize that this theaterization is a valid concept which needs to be implemented? So wherein we have all the forces, for the understanding of those who are not from the defense forces, is it okay that at every theater level, at every major area, there is one particular commander who is controlling the operational aspects of all the three forces, that is the Army, Navy, and the Air Force? Thank you, sir.
I can't give any comments on that because it's too high up for me. But I think jointmanship is a wonderful thing. I mean, for our operation, it worked like clockwork, literally. We were working with the Army, no bother at all. I mean, there was no reason for us to be any different. I mean, we were also Indians, they're also Indians. Just because I'm wearing a Air Force uniform didn't make any difference. We're doing the same job, objective was the same. So, and we worked beautifully, no bother at all.
Good evening, sir. It's a great pleasure listening to you. I'm Commodore Vasan. another 71 war veteran, along with Army and Air Force counterparts. The point that was brought out by General Jose is very valid because these numbers are dwindling. Today, you can look at the number in this hall, there would be just 3 or 4 of us who are part of this 30th campaign. So to ensure that, we learn this lesson. In fact, your lesson would not have been known at all. But for, whatever happens, I think the fate conspired to bring the whole thing about through you and Wing Commander Unni Kartha. So the history cells that we keep talking about in Army headquarters, Naval headquarters and Air Force, are they really active? I'm not sure because I've been out of service for 20 years now. So, what can we do to institutionalize this entire process of learning from our history? One. And second is to record it, as was also brought out by General Jose. And the last part is, of course, Air Marshal Varthaman mentioned about the worst accident out of which you came out. So can you tell us a little more about it?
I'm going to talk about this. I'm going to talk about it.
So I have a different kind of question. I mean, not the this reluctance among the officers to write.
Yeah.
It can also be attributable to the general negligence about the war literature in India. If you take the literary field, nobody is interested. India has never produced a book, can never produce an author like Cornelius Ryan or somebody who is selling well. Because war literature is not appreciated. You will never hear an award being given to a war book. Wouldn't that be one of the reasons that why no one is interested or, the war stories don't come out?
This time when I was in Air Headquarters, they asked me to give details of all the veterans I knew, which I've given it to them. They are sending officers or men to everybody's house to get their stories out. And they're recording all the stories. So once Cornita had come to my house in my sister's place in Gurgaon, she sat with me for 2.5 hours. They had a camera, they had this thing, and they were recording what I was telling them, all my stories. And similarly, they seem to be going to every name I've given them. They're sending veterans, officers or men, record their stories. Whatever you remember, they're recording it. So they couldn't put it in the archives in the Air Force. I don't know what the Army is doing, but the Air Force definitely is doing it now.
When 2 journalists are writing a pretty good series called India's Bravest. This is, the ordinary soldiers. I mean, not ones who are awarded also, who are in the Kashmir operations going on day to day. I read a couple of those books. Beautiful writing, but it never comes out. I mean, nobody promotes it. They will promote, whatever, what they call the kind of
you're right.
romance or something, whatever book, but not war books.
Sir, this was so evident that is a perception of a society today. And somebody commented beautifully on Twitter when this movie Sam Bahadur had come, and same time the movie Jawan had come of Shah Rukh Khan. One has Jawan, Shah Rukh Khan, one has Sam Bahadur, true story of leadership. He had 10 crores, one had 400 crores. That's the public we have today. When you write a good book on war, who reads it? So publisher said, why should I publish it? This is our problem. It's a true problem we have. Any more questions? Thank you so much, sir. You will take 1 or 2 minutes to tell your unique story, sir.
No, I'll tell you the next story.
Come, sir. Please come, sir.
Yeah. We can put the other one. Okay. Good evening again. I'll tell you a different story now. I left Indian Air Force, went to UK, joined British Airways helicopters, and I was flying Sikorsky 61, then Sikorsky 76, and then Chinooks came in, and I went to Chinooks. Chinooks, this is the Bravo, Golf Bravo Whiskey Foxtrot Charlie. That's my accident which happened on 6th of November 1986. I flew to Chinooks for 5 years, and beautiful helicopter, absolutely gorgeous. I'll just show you the helicopter. We go to the, yeah. That is standing in Aberdeen outside our hangar. It's just like an airliner. And as you can see, it's quite big. Next one, please. Next picture. Yeah, that's the cockpit, just like in any airliner cockpit. Next one. Cabin, 44 seats, 42 facing forwards, 2 facing backwards. But we get luggage compartment. We had a toilet. So you can imagine that's a helicopter. And we got 6.5 hours of endurance. And the 2 engines we had, so powerful, powerful engines. And we could load it up fully, load up all the luggage fully, and still have spare capacity. Very rarely you can have a helicopter which can say that. All helicopters always are wondering whether to carry passengers or carry fuel. Because most of the all the other helicopters that I've flown about 10 of them, this is the most wonderful one, in spite of my accident. Next one, please. That you can see on the rigs, we could go in from the back, or we could go in from the front. And the back, normally on the rig, we used to go from the back, because you could carry your luggage and put it in the luggage compartment, and then get in. And next one, please. And that gives you a view of what it looks like. Now we had 2 very powerful engines at the back. Then we had a shaft which is going on top of the body to the front, and then turning 90 degrees and turning the front rotor, and 1 shaft going to the back, turning 90 degrees and turning the back rotor. And the 2 rotors intermesh. One goes clockwise, one goes anti-clockwise. And the one at the back is a little bit higher than the other, but they're overlapping more than 60%. And there's a 30-degree gap like this between the rotor, you know, and they're turning like this. And they synchronize very well, so they obviously, if they meet, they're going to crash. And so this helicopter on the 6th of November, I'll just show you the next picture and then we'll come back to this one. Go to the, yeah. This is, at the bottom is Scotland, and you can see the crash site at Sombra, which is a Shetland island. It's 150 miles north of Scotland. And the gear, as you can see over here, that is called bevel ring gear at the bottom picture. That is the one which cracked, and I'll show you the picture. The next one, please. The next one, go over. Yeah, next one. That's not the last one. Okay, next one. Yeah, that's the gear which broke. And that's the front gear. So we go back now, go back. Go back. You see, that's the gear over here which broke. And the reason was, the front gear, our engineers found, it has 24 nuts and bolts. It's holding a shaft and the gear. The gear is called bevel ring gear. And our engineers found that one of the nuts or 2 of those nuts would get loose every flight, and they would tighten them up. And they found a special grease which they could put, and that stopped the nuts getting loose. So they told Boeing, this is the problem, this is the solution, and it's working. But Boeing said, no, we are the manufacturers, we will tell you what to do. So they made a new design of the gear. They made the holes bigger. They made nuts. Can you show me the next picture? Next one. Yeah. See the 24 nuts and bolts? They made the holes bigger. They made the nuts and bolts bigger. And they took away the washer. Now what happened was, when the washer was there, whenever we came back from the offshore, moisture, salt air moisture, used to collect, and it became water, and it used to collect on top of the gear. And because of the washer, it would seep through and come to the bottom and go out of the sump. But when they took the washer away, the water would collect, but it would not go through the bolts, and it would collect on the top. So over period, it became acidic, and over period, it broke that gear. And that is the fault of the Boeing, and Boeing was blamed for changing the gear. So I'll tell you my story first and then tell you what happened at the end of it. Okay, we'll go back to the picture of the helicopter, you know, the previous one. Yeah. So on the 6th of November, we were in Shetland for 1 week. From Monday to Friday, we used to go there. And from there, the rig is just like Bombay High. We have oil rigs there, 120 miles from from Shetland Island. And we had 2 sets of crew. And I was in the morning crew. And the morning crew did 2 flights. And the afternoon crew did 1 flight. And my co-pilot was a chap called Mike Stanley. And the co-pilot in the afternoon crew was Mark Nixon. Yeah. And he had not been flying. He'd given up flying for 3-4 years. He'd gone home to help his wife set up a shop. And the shop was running fine. So he had come back. He'd just joined us for 4-5 months earlier. And he told Mike Stanley, can I do your duty? Because you're doing 2 flights. I want to do 2 flights because I haven't been flying for 4-5 years. And you can do my duty in the afternoon. Mike said, yeah, no problem. You know, the swap duties. So he should have not been with me on this flight. And then 2 crew, we share flying. So the pilot who's flying is called the handling pilot. So when you're the handling pilot, you're sitting in the cockpit, but your back is not resting. You know, you're controlling the controls, and you're flying them. And the co-pilot, the pilot who's not flying, the non-handling pilot, he's doing the radio work, he's doing the paperwork, he's checking up how many passengers are coming, and you know, things like that. And making sure all the instruments are okay, and you know, there's no emergency or anything. So, but his back is resting, and this becomes important as I go along the story. So I was the handling pilot on the way out. Beautiful day, beautiful sunny day. We took off at 9 o'clock in the morning, and our job was to land at 2 places. There are 4 Brent rigs belonging to Shell: Brent Alpha, Brent Charlie, Brent Bravo, Brent Charlie, Brent Delta, about a half a kilometer from each other. Big oil field. And so we were supposed to land only on 2 rigs, Brent Charlie and Brent Delta. Drop 20 passengers, pick up 22 on the way back. And last minute, they gave me 10-kilo package to drop on Brent Alpha. That added 10 minutes to my flying. And my accident happened 2 minutes before I landed. So if my last 10 kilo was not given to me, I would have been on the ground. So I landed on Brent Alpha, Brent Charlie and Brent Delta. And then I handed over controls to the co-pilot, Nixon. And he got airborne and set course back 2,500 feet. Beautiful day. We chit-chatting. We put the autopilot on. Nothing to do. Wait till the destination arrives. And about 10 miles, we started descending. Came down to 500 feet. And then we started hearing this noise. It didn't sound dangerous to us. We were just discussing where the noise is coming from. And so I said, anyway, we're landing. We'll tell the engineers, have a look before we go for our next flight. So we weren't sort of worried. And the cabin attendant had checked the passengers, seat belts are on and everything. He opened the door, came in, gave us a thumbs up, everybody's okay. Then he heard us talking about the noise. And he says, it's just coming from here. As you can see, he was standing over there, just below the front gear. He was just below the front gear. And even he didn't seem worried about the noise. He said the noise is coming from here. And then he opened the door, closed the door, and he was going to sit down. His seat was on the door itself. But I don't think he had time to sit down because there was an almighty bang. The noise that we were hearing, the gear was breaking up. And when cockpit voice recorder was taken out and investigated, the noise had been there for the entire half an hour. It records for half an hour. You know, entire half an hour, the noise had been there. But we only heard it for the last maybe 2 minutes, you know. And the gear broke. And once the gear broke, the front rotor slowed down. It was like an extra teeth. You know, so front rotor slowed down. So when the front rotor slowed down, it hit the back rotor. And when the 2 rotors hit each other, they're almost hitting at a speed of sound because they're going in opposite direction. And the almighty bang that we heard was the 2 rotors hitting each other. And then the rear rotor, along with that all area of red, the gearbox, parted company from the helicopter. Now I had 2 rotors, one here and one here. This rotor is holding this one up, and this rotor is holding this one up. Now this rotor disappeared. Helicopter did this. Now I'm facing up straight towards the sky as if I'm in a fighter aircraft. But actually the helicopter is coming backwards. And the co-pilot, because he was the handling pilot, we were flying at 100 miles an hour. Now we're flying at 0 mile an hour. whiplash effect. You know, when you brake in a car, you get a whiplash. So with the whiplash, he broke his neck because his back was not resting. And the only reason my neck never broke, my back was resting. So the whiplash on me was not as bad as on him. And when the cockpit was recovered and brought to Aberdeen, they found his body was still sitting there, nothing else wrong with him, just the neck had gone. And that is only the whiplash, you know. And I think at that time, with the whiplash, at least another half the people died in that helicopter. And then now we're coming backwards all the way to the sea. I grabbed the controls, and the controls were still connected to the front rotor. Front rotor is still turning. So I pushed the controls forward to get the helicopter back to level. And the front rotor broke the cockpit from this area. It broke the cockpit and tilted over. It flipped. I could see the sea, then I could see the sky. I could see the sky, and then I could see the sea. Now I'm coming towards the sea straight forward. I thought the whole helicopter was behind me. But they said, no, the helicopter was not behind you. The cockpit had broken, but the floor was still attached. I was still attached to the main cabin because the whole top had become weak with the gearbox disappearing. So the cockpit is towards the sea. I could see the sea. It was as if I was in a Disney World, you know, doing roller coaster. And I was hoping somehow the helicopter will level out and we'll land in the sea and we'll all walk out like we do in the Disney World, you know, but just dreaming, basically. Nothing I could do. Everything was breaking up around me. And one of the rotors hit the front cockpit, and the windscreen broke. The co-pilot side, the windscreen broke. It was flying in. All the debris was flying in. And this side of my face was cut up quite a lot. And my nose was broken. Luckily, it didn't touch my eyes. It didn't come anywhere near my eyes. So anyway, we kept going down. From 300 feet, we hit the water. And I calculated roughly, by the time we hit the water, we must have been going 100 miles an hour. Imagine hitting the water at 100 miles an hour. The entire helicopter got smashed. Now I'll show you the picture of the smashed helicopter. We go further. You can see the wreckage that was brought to Aberdeen. And I was sitting in the cockpit over there. So when we hit the water, the rest of the people died. Nobody drowned. And all the seats came off the mooring. Only seat which looked like a seat was mine and my co-pilots. There were no other seats. None of the other seats survived. And once we hit the water, the cockpit broke. And it just dived in gently into the water, as if from 20 feet. I didn't feel it. I didn't feel anything about going into the water. Once we went into the water, the cockpit went going down, maybe 20, 30 feet, 35, 40 feet, it stopped. And it had turned over to his side. And the windscreen, you know, my side of the windscreen, we had an emergency window on either side. My side emergency window had flown off. So I knew there was a big hole there. It was 11:30 daytime. And I knew which way to go. You know, the sun, I could see the sunlight. And we have 4 belts. When the cockpit was brought, the 4 belts, you know, they're locked in the middle, 2 straps and 2 belts here, and they're locked in the middle. And I didn't unlock it. And this strap on this side was broken. I obviously can't break a strap. And nobody could tell me how the strap was broken or who broke it. And nothing had come in, no metal had come in. Because if any metal had come in, it would have also cut my body or my shirt at least, if nothing else. But the strap was broken. And I asked the engineers, how could the strap break? Nobody could tell me. But I swam out, no bother. You know, I didn't open the belt, I just swam out. And another thing which happened in my favor, at 11:30 precisely, Air Sea Rescue Helicopter, who's also based at the same place, got airborne for training. Normally they go at 9:30 every day. Literally, every day they go at 9:30, 1 hour training they do and come back. That day, for some reason, they got delayed to 11:30. My accident happened at 11:31. So I see him take off in front of me before my accident happened. So the back of my mind, I knew he'll come and pick me up. You know, it is amazing, absolutely amazing. So he got airborne, and he asked the control tower, where's the Chinook? He says he's on finals, I've just given him clearance to land. But he turned around and he said, I can't see anybody on the finals. He said, no, 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 he's on finals. Then he looked up, the controller was looking up. He says, oh, bloody hell, where the Chinook? So then the AC rescue helicopter said, oh, I can see something in the sea. So anyway, I swam up and I reached the top. And we have a survival suit. Survival suit is sealed, sealed here, sealed on the feet. But it is sealed at the neck as well, except we used to leave the zip open because the cockpit is very hot during when you're flying. It's like a glass house. When you're sitting in the glass house, very hot. So we used to always leave the zip open. Idea being that in case of emergency, we can put the zip up, But of course, if that kind of emergency, nobody thinks of all this. You're thinking of a million other things. So anyway, when I came up, my suit was full of water, So I reached the top, and I'm holding on to some wreckage. And I was waiting for the AC rescue helicopter to come. Very, very cold. North Sea, 7-8 degrees temperature maximum it was in November time. And I was feeling cold. I was shivering. And we were only wearing a shirt, basically, and a trouser. That's it. And even if I was wearing anything else, I would have been full of water anyway. I would have been cold. And so when the helicopter came, I waved at him. And then before he came, I saw one body pop up, another one. About 8-9 bodies popped up next to me. And they were not doing anything. Their face was in the water, and they're not making any movement. And it dawned on me that these people probably didn't make it, because it never occurred to me anybody will be dead. Because we used to do this training every second or third year, including the passengers. We have to do training of how you land in the water, how the helicopter turns in, how you have to wait for a little while, then you can come out and swim out, and So I was expecting everybody to be doing that because I had come out without any bother, Anyway, when I saw these bodies, my heart really sank. And then this AC rescue helicopter arrived. I waved at him. He picked me up. And the passenger who survived, he was sitting in the seat right behind me. So when the cockpit broke, there was a big hole behind me, and there was a big hole on top of the cabin. And this passenger who survived, he had originally been allotted a seat right at the back of the helicopter. But when he came in, he was the last passenger to board. The only seat which was vacant was right behind the cockpit. But having said that, there were two passengers sitting there, one him and one another guy. The other guy didn't survive. Only this guy survived. Again, potluck. And the other thing we did was debris flying around in the cabin, and something hit him. He had passed out. But before passing out, he had zipped himself up. So when he reached, like me, 30, 40 feet underwater, his suit became like a football and threw him out. So he reached the top, and one wave came, woke him up, and he opened his eyes, and one dinghy inflated next to him. So he grabbed the dinghy, and big dinghy, but 20 people can sit in it. And he grabbed the dinghy, put the rope around his hand, and passed out again, because he had no energy to get into the dinghy. Just hold on to the dinghy. And then he heard the helicopter come to pick me up. He could see the noise and everything. So he opened his eyes, waved, then we picked him up as well, put him in the helicopter. So two of us were in the helicopter. Now, even though I was outside the sea, I was still in the water, because my suit was full of water, So I was telling the crew over there, please cut my socks off. So it took a little while for him to understand what I was telling him, because the helicopter is so noisy. So eventually he cut my socks off, so the water came out. And then they're looking for 45 more people. They were circling everywhere, looking for 45 more people. And one Bell 212, another helicopter was based there. They took off, and one boat was launched. We're only 2 miles from the runway, not very far from the runway. So they had also launched, and they're looking for anybody else. And obviously, no other movement was there. And then we closed our eyes, and we stopped making any movement. So the crew went and told the captain, sir, these two people might go as well. We better take them to the hospital. So they rushed us to the hospital, and when we reached there, they cut open our clothes and everything, wrapped us up like in a tin foil, and we warmed ourselves up. And half an hour later, a doctor was talking to me in Hindi. An Indian doctor was there. Absolutely wonderful to meet him and chat with him. So I asked him, what about the other people? How many people survived? He says, just the two of you. I couldn't get over it. And it's only when I saw this wreckage, and the AC rescue guys and engineers came, and they were saying, how the hell did you come out of that helicopter? And nobody could believe that we walked out of that helicopter. And even when I'm telling you the story, I can't believe I walked out of that helicopter. And my company was telling me, we'll give you pension I said, I'm only 45. What am I going to do with pension? I want to fly. And within 3 months, I was medically fit. Within 4 months, I was actually fit to fly. They said, no, no, go and see so-and-so psychiatrist, so-and-so psychologist. They wanted to make sure I still had a brain. They couldn't figure out that I could still think, after being in that helicopter. So it's only after about 7 or 8 specialists had seen me, they all gave me thumbs up. So I went back to flying, and I flew for 20 years after that. And thoroughly enjoyed myself. And now I've retired in 2006, 2007, and just the fun part, when I was retiring, I was working in Nigeria. We were doing 6 weeks on, 6 weeks off. Real fun. When I was retiring, they said, we'll give you 1 year extension. We got 4 helicopters sitting in Geneva. Can you bring it for us? I said, it'll be my pleasure. So they would ring me up. I'll go to Geneva with another pilot and a flight engineer, and they'll give us a bundle of money. And we had to sit in Geneva for a month to get the permissions, to overflying permission from different countries, and to landing permissions and all that. So it used to take about a month. In the meantime, the helicopter was being prepared by the engineers over there to ferry it, and brand new helicopters. So we used to sit for a month in Geneva, literally enjoying ourselves. And then they gave us a bundle of money, $30,000, $40,000 they used to give us for the journey, and for paying for the hotel, paying for the fuel. And our flying was 350, 400 miles in a day. And we had to go 2 hours before takeoff and do the paperwork for going from one place to the other and landing at the other place. And we used to pick whichever place we wanted to go. No questions asked, and wherever we liked, like Malaga, I had my nephew there. So we stayed there for 3 days. Nobody said anything to us. It was open. Just bring the helicopter. It doesn't matter how many days you take, as long as it's not too many. But it used to take about a month, 2 weeks of flying, 1 month in Geneva, so a month and a half, roughly. And very few people asked me, what did you do with the money? Where is the receipts? Nothing. And one day I went and gave them $5,000 back. Why are you giving $5,000? Everybody's asking me, why didn't you keep it? I said, I couldn't justify keeping $5,000 in my pocket because I had $5,000 spare. But we used to go to the best hotel, eat the best food, drink the best wine, and enjoy ourselves thoroughly throughout the journey. And I did that 4 times. Can you imagine? That is icing on the cake. And at the end of it, they gave me 20,000 pounds for doing it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I now request Commodore Vijesh Kumar Garg VSM to deliver the vote of thanks, sir.
Good evening once again, everybody. Thank you, sir. Your stories are never ending. They are as inspiring, and also tell that Hindi saying, Jako Rako Sayam Mar Sakena Koi. It proves so beautifully here. Whether it was 71, whether it's your accident, and the A crew, I can tell you, we are the first batch of India who were trained in the Dunker drill in Yeovilton, with 4-degree temperature in the water, and then we learned the seeking topper up same drill as you gone through it. But it saves you. You do it, and you have to have the spirit in you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, today we heard one thing on this book as well as stories. There are so many contributions in any war again unnoticed, unreported. There are so many warriors from various areas, be air, navy, or within army, such a large army we have, as Colonel Krishna Swami told us. That so many stories are not told, not heard, not understood, and their contribution never recognized. But they remain the true decision happening that time. And that is the reason what General Jose was saying. This is a time to let's put down those stories as we hear any which way, so that next generation understand the contributions. You may not get the honors, but contribution can be recognized, as well as lesson learned can be taken from there. That's what comes out from this beautifully. This book, Me For at War, when I was told that you were doing vote of thanks, I read the whole story. As they say, Navy is different. And I was told in College of Warfare 1990, Air Marshal Kapila, I was getting the trophy, a Manjidia trophy, the small joint air warfare course. He said this was totally discussed, Air Force and all those load tables of, and Group Captain Savoor used to be one of the DS there. He said this naval chap came alone here, Army discussed all battles, and Air Force did loading, the naval chap came, 271 war, Army said we did so-and-so, Air Force did so-and-so sortie, Navy towards the end got the Vikrant, they said, boys come, V for victory, cocktails on Vikrant. So that's how Navy operates. But yes, every service contributes to war, whichever they can. Your question came in your theatre command in 2005. I'm one of the batch with the first study of CDM of this joint air doctrine for theatre command. Yes, there are sort of some stands are there, like air power. If you divide it, there's a problem. And you saw in these small operations here, air power, also mobility is there. You can use it the way you want. You tie it up, you lose the war. This is my, even then, even now, I say the same thing. Well, today's discussion, what happened, I think somebody in IDS will be listening to us and taking this book lessons that what air power can do and what jointmanship can do if you want to achieve the aim. Being a management professor today, these days, I take 2-4 lessons from this whole story today we heard. One was the leadership, you got to have out-of-box thinking. If the story doesn't come out of General Sagat, I'm sure many more, the true story of out-of-box thinking, if you want to achieve the larger aim, it comes from out there, risk has to be taken. And we don't discuss very often the descent. We say conflict, no, the descent also. What came out from the story, he descended to the order of the chief as the, and the army commander, and finally they accepted the descent for the right cause. There are 2 lessons I take from here, because I don't think any management institution happening in Chennai, all the colleges, the best college here, I don't think any corporate story can inspire student the leadership studies story which we tell them like this. Thank you so much, sir. So, cutting short, I start my series of vote of thanks. First, I'd like to thank Squadron Vaid coming all the way from here, and his co-author, late Wing Commander Unni, putting the thoughts, making this book so that people, the students, can learn from it what leadership, operations, spirit, motivation can do to any work. Thank you so much, sir, being with us very on the way. Thank you, sir. I'd like to thank the AOC of Southern Command who came all the way to be on this occasion, and of course the Chief of Staff of Dakshin Bharat area, despite his busy schedule or protocol duties, he made a point to make it here. Thank you so much, sir, being with us and gracing the occasion. I'd like to thank all the veterans who are here, the members of Colors of Glory or not, because we are the one who's spreading this message to society. What armed forces did, what they can do, and we are the one who can spread this message. Whether we write the history, we tell the stories, nobody else is going to tell them the stories because they want to listen to us. Is my experience today in Chennai last 3-4 years. But thank you so much for all being here. I'd like to thank all those media people who came here. I'm sure I always say the media is the one who promotes what events happening. Please give a wide coverage to this, the book as well as the event. People know, maybe we can give a clip to him, what happened. So right story comes tomorrow in all the papers. Thank you so much being with us. I'd like to thank CPR organization here who gave us auditorium every time they give us, whenever we have an occasion like this. Thank you so much, all those. And like to give a small clap to small young team who did the MC and all arrangement for us with the generator on, generator off, but their spirit is always on. Thank you so much, everybody, and like to forget to salute to the spirit of our founding trustee, Captain Ramchandran. The colors of glory runs on his shoulder, whether it's marathon, whether it's program, whether it's on-site, whether it's on-site, or whether it's better intake. The first time I met him, I think his spirit should also go in books. What 82, 85 doesn't matter, 8 doesn't matter. It is the spirit which matters. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much. Very good evening. Jai Hind.
Request all of you to stand for the national anthem, please.